Come closer. The shadows have missed you, and tonight they have a new story to tell. Welcome to Scary Stories After Dark. By the time Agents Hardy and Steele got the call, the snow had already started to fall over the city. It came in as a cluster. Multiple fatalities, public location, no clear suspect, local PD spooked enough to kick it upstairs. That was how it usually landed on their desks. The outliers, the things that didn't fold nicely into a report. Hardy read the summary twice, thumb tapping against the manila folder. Steele just watched the snow through the narrow office window. Toy store, Hardy said finally. 3 floors, bodies found after closing, owner and 3 shoppers. She hesitated on that last part. No sign of forced entry. Doors were locked from the inside. Steele held out his hand without looking. Let me see. He scanned, jaw moving slightly as he read. A streak of dried coffee cut through the lower paragraph where some overworked sergeant had spilled his sanity fuel. Blood on the main floor, Steele said. Smears, not spray, few prints, no weapon recovered, cameras cut out at 1931 and never came back. Techs say it's not a simple outage. He lowered the file. So someone knew where to pull the plug. Or something, Hardy murmured. Steele snorted just barely. We're not even at the scene yet. The car ride out was quiet. City lights gave way to older buildings strung with tired Christmas decorations, everything washed in the amber glow of street lamps. The toy store sat at the end of a sloping block, folded into the ground floor of a brick relic from another era. Its sign flickered. Winter Wonder Toys, half the letters dim, the snowman mascot peeling at the edges. Yellow tape crisscrossed the doors, red and blue lights stroked the snow in lazy passes. Hardy stepped out first, breath fogging, eyes going instantly to the upper stories. 3 levels of dark windows, some with cardboard cutouts of cartoon characters frozen in perpetually cheerful poses. Behind them, nothing moved. Could be structural issues, Steele said, coming around the hood. Old building, bad wiring, crowded holiday rush. And 4 dead people staged around a toy store, Hardy finished. Merry Christmas. Inside, the heat hit them first. Too warm. The kind of cloying, recycled warmth that made plastic and cardboard exhale their chemical scent. It mingled with something darker underneath, a copper tang that slid right behind the sinuses and stayed there. The first body lay near the entrance, beyond a toppled display of stuffed reindeer. The man's name had been Leonard Pike, owner, 58, local. He was on his back, arms spread as if ready to embrace someone, eyes staring at the ceiling, a thin arc of blood traced from his neck onto the carpet, almost dainty. What did the locals say? Hardy asked quietly. Coroner thinks sharp instrument, deep but clean, no defensive wounds. Steele crouched, not quite touching anything. He didn't fight. Hardy's gaze drifted past him, deeper into the store. Rows of toys stretched away in rigid, colorful lines. Dolls in boxes peered out with painted eyes. Action figures posed mid-punch. Board games stacked like small, bright tombstones. Christmas trees glowed in the corners, lights blinking a little too slowly. There were more shapes among the aisles. White sheets, zippered black bags, crime scene markers like tiny yellow flags stranded in a sea of red and green. 3 more, Steele said, straightening. Different aisles, no clear pattern, all after-hours shoppers who didn't make it out before closing. They look arranged, Hardy said. She was right. One body sat upright in a child-sized plastic chair at a display tea party. A small pink cup rested in their open hand. A drip of blood had fallen into the cup and dried there, dark and flaking. Another lay curled on a beanbag beneath a row of colorful plush bears, as if they'd simply fallen asleep. Crimson smeared down the side of their neck into the fuzzy fabric, turning cartoon snowflakes rust brown. Hardy's stomach knotted. "This feel like a robbery to you?" she asked. "No register disturbed," Steele said. "No missing inventory. Security rooms intact. Someone did this for some other reason." He paused, then added, "Could be a psychotic break. Someone who works here, familiar with the space." Hardy looked up. The ceilings were low here, but she could see the edges of stairways tucked behind staff-only doors. One sloped up, one sloped down. 3 floors, she said. "And the power only died for the cameras?" "That's what they put in the report." "Of course they did." Hardy's mouth twitched into something not quite a smile. "You know they don't call us when it's simple, right?" Steele glanced at his watch, then at the nearest Christmas tree. Tiny lights winked back, reflections trembling in glass ornaments. For a moment, the whole tree seemed to breathe. "Let's clear the ground floor," he said. "Then we move up. We treat this like what it is, a crime scene, not a campfire story." Somewhere deeper in the store, something plastic giggled to itself and went quiet. Hardy met Steele's eyes. "You heard that, right?" "Faulty toy sensor," Steele replied. "Or a timer." Hardy didn't argue. She just stepped past the first body into the aisles, shoes whispering over the carpet, already stiffening with thin, drying tracks of blood. Above them, the building waited. Hardy swept her flashlight across the nearest aisle, the beam slicing through rows of boxed dolls and glittering Christmas displays. The store was too warm, too still, like breathing inside a sealed throat. Her shoulders tightened instinctively. Steele stayed behind at the entrance, snapping photos of the staged bodies with clinical precision. Hardy could hear the shutter clicks echoing faintly between the shelves. "Textbook spree killer," Steele called from behind her. "We'll find prints." Hardy didn't answer. Something about this scene pressed wrong against her instincts. Everything felt curated. She moved deeper. Plush animals lined the shelves in cheerful frozen rows. Holiday bears with stitched smiles, reindeer with glittery hooves. A giant stuffed rabbit perched at the end cap, its glassy eyes catching her beam. Blood had pooled beneath its feet, a thin trail dragged outward, disappearing under a rack of discount toys. Hardy crouched, fingertips hovering just above the carpet fibers. The blood had begun to dry, crusting along the edges, but the carpet beneath the drag mark was matted in the opposite direction, like something heavy had been pulled backward, not forward. Steele joined her a moment later, lowering into a crouch beside her. Victim number 2 was found over there. He nodded toward a small diorama of a winter cabin outfitted with miniature sleds. Kids' play table, tea set. Witnesses say the power was still on when they walked in. Lights were flickering. "Why pose them?" Hardy murmured. "Psychotic ritual or guilt?" Hardy looked at him. "Or a message?" Steele stood, dusting off his knee. "To who?" Before she could answer, a soft clicking sound echoed down the adjacent aisle. Hardy's flashlight followed the noise, catching the soft plastic grin of a talking baby doll. Its eyes rolled open, its voice crackled through degraded speakers.
"Hardy."
Steele froze. Motion sensor. No. Hardy's voice stayed low. "Those dolls activate from touch." The doll repeated her name, slower this time, dragging the syllables like it was savoring them. Steele stepped forward, reaching to shut it off, but the doll suddenly toppled sideways, as if nudged, though neither of them had moved close enough to disturb it. A shadow shifted further up the aisle. Large, slow. Gone before Hardy's light caught it fully. Steele straightened, jaw tightening. Probably an animal that got inside. Raccoon. Maybe a dog. Hardy didn't argue. But as she rose, the hair along her arms lifted, and she felt the weight of something watching from between the shelves. Not an animal, not someone panicked or frantic. Something composed. She swept her beam across the shadows again. The aisle was empty. But the plastic cup in the tea party display continued to drip, one red bead falling, then another, like the store itself was quietly bleeding. Hardy and Steele separated at the central display, two branching aisles forming a narrow V that swallowed sound. Steele stayed ground level, moving toward the staff hallway. Hardy headed for the wide staircase leading up to the electronics floor, her flashlight beam trembling over garlands and plastic candy canes wrapped around the railing. The moment she stepped onto the first stair, the temperature shifted. Colder, sharper, like something exhaled from above. Hardy paused, listening. Nothing but the distant hum of emergency lighting and the faintest rattle of plastic wheels turning. She continued up. The second floor opened into a long corridor of televisions, rows of flat screens and bulky, outdated displays stacked like reflective tombstones. Hardy's footsteps softened on industrial carpet, her breath puffed in the colder air. Then one TV flickered on. Just one. Static, gray, buzzing. The screen's glow jittered over the shelves of remote control cars and talking toys. Hardy approached slowly, her heartbeat thudding in her throat. A shape appeared in the snow of static, too tall, too broad-shouldered to be a customer, not quite human in silhouette. She blinked. The shape vanished. Static swallowed everything. Hardy exhaled through her nose once, steadying herself. Hardy, status? Steele's voice crackled in her earpiece. Electronics floor, one TV powered on, no visible source. Old wiring, Steele said, or a motion trigger. Hardy didn't bother arguing. Instead, she swept her light toward a shelf of battery-operated plush toys. Bears in scarves, penguins with yarn hats, Santa dolls with plastic eyelids that fluttered when pressed. All of them stared out with blank, dead eyes. A soft whirring sound started, then a click, then another, then a third. Hardy froze. One by one, toys activated, not in unison, but in sequence, as if responding to some silent command. A bear's head jerked up, a penguin flapped its felt wings once, a Santa doll lifted its chin, mouth parting. And then they spoke. In a patchwork chorus of mismatched voices, compressed and distorted through cheap speakers.
Hardy!
Hardy!
Hardy.
Hardy's pulse jumped. She stepped back, flashlight trembling slightly in her grip. None of the toys had voice recognition features, none had microphones, none had any reason to speak her name. "Steele," she whispered, "are you hearing this?" "Negative. What are you?" A thud interrupted him, heavy, from below. Then another, something big moving between aisles on the first floor. Hardy moved toward the balcony rail overlooking the main level, careful, deliberate, silent. She eased her hand over the edge and peered down. Steele stood by the tea party display, back turned. Behind him, a massive shadow slid between shelves, too quietly, disappearing before the beam of Hardy's light could catch its shape. Hardy's breath caught. "Steele," she whispered urgently, "you're not alone?" But the line only crackled softly. And below her, the toys whispered again. Steele didn't turn around immediately when Hardy spoke through the comm. He was studying a trail of blood smeared along the bottom of a shelf. A long, arcing swipe that suggested someone had been dragged. The trail ended abruptly at a collapsed display of Christmas puzzles. Clean break, no footprints, no scuffle. Just absence. "Hardy, you're cutting out," he said, tapping the earpiece. Her voice flickered through static. "Not alone. Behind." Then the line went dead. Steele exhaled through his nose, annoyed more than alarmed, and turned. The aisle behind him was empty. Silent, still. But something had changed. The lights. He looked up slowly. The ceiling track lights had begun to dim in a slow, unnatural rhythm, not flickering, but lowering their brightness as if responding to a command. Then the store hummed. A deep, low vibration rose through the floorboards. Steele braced a hand on a shelf as it thrummed through the soles of his shoes. The overhead bulbs pulsed once, twice. Click. Darkness swallowed the first floor. Steele flicked on his flashlight instinctively, the beam slicing across displays and cardboard boxes. Shadows swayed, garlands twitched, something metallic skittered across the tile like a coin being dragged by a string. He followed the sound. "Hardy, respond," he ordered quietly. No answer. Halfway down the aisle, he stopped. A series of small metal jingle bells were scattered across the floor, leading toward the break room. They gleamed like dropped breadcrumbs. Steel crouched, sweeping the beam slowly. One bell trembled on its side, then rolled half an inch toward him, as though nudged. Steel drew his weapon. "Okay," he muttered, "not funny." Upstairs, Hardy heard the blackout sweep through the building, a wave rushing downward. The TV static blinked out. The toys fell silent. The cold deepened. Then she heard it. Heavy footsteps. Not stomping, not clumsy. Measured. Deliberate. Something large was moving on the first floor, and it wasn't trying to hide its weight. It wanted the sound to carry, wanted her to hear the distance between them shrinking. Hardy drew in a slow breath, gripping the railing as she listened. The pattern of the steps was wrong, too far apart, too heavy for a human form, but too quiet for something that big. Every step fell like a distant echo of a much heavier impact. Then the breaker box somewhere below slammed shut, hard enough for Hardy to feel the vibration in the rail beneath her hand. The entire second floor plunged into deeper darkness. Her flashlight flickered twice, then steadied. "Steel," she whispered. "If you can hear me, stay where you are. Something's moving down there, big." Another step shook the floor. Then another. Then nothing. Hardy moved to the top of the stairs, beam angled downward. "Steel," she hissed, but only the faint jingle of bells answered her, slowly, carefully, sliding across the floor as if pushed by a claw. Hardy stepped back. Something down there had just changed its direction, and it was now coming up the stairs. Hardy descended halfway down the stairs before freezing. The steps coming up had stopped. The silence that followed was worse. The cheer floor spread out before her, aisles of garland-wrapped displays, Christmas trees glittering with ornaments, plush animals arranged in perfect rows. It was the happiest floor in the entire store. It felt like a breathing mausoleum. Hardy swept her light across the displays, breath thin. The trees rustled as if touched by a breeze, except there was no airflow, no AC, no open vents. Just warm, stagnant air. A soft rustling to her right made her turn sharply. A row of holiday bears stared back, stitched smiles, velvet ribbons around their necks. One of them was leaning ever so slightly forward, its paws touching the carpet, but its tag was pinned too high for it to have fallen naturally. Hardy steadied her grip on her gun. "Steel, do you copy?" she whispered. Static. She stepped off the staircase, shoes sinking slightly into the carpet. A faint trail of blood, thin as thread, cut across the floor and vanished under a towering Christmas tree. Hardy approached slowly. The ornaments trembled. She stopped. Something under the branches breathed. Not fast, not panicked. A slow, controlled exhale, like something waiting in the dark had lungs the size of a barrel. Hardy raised her flashlight and nudged a branch aside with the barrel of her gun. Nothing. Just boxes of discounted dolls. She let the branch drop. It swayed once, twice. Then something behind her clicked. Hardy spun. The row of holiday bears had shifted. All of them. closer. Their paws angled in different positions than before. Some stood taller as though rising onto their hind legs. One had its head tilted too far to the left, button eyes staring blankly through the dim. Hardy backed away, heart thudding. A soft scrape whispered along the floor, heavy fabric dragging across carpet. She angled her light toward the far aisle. A massive silhouette slid between displays, the shape too tall, too wide, too silent. Its head brushed a dangling paper star that swayed after it passed. Hardy froze. The shadow paused, turned, tilted its head slightly in her direction. Hardy flicked off her flashlight instantly and crouched behind a wooden shelf. Darkness swallowed her, but she counted the creature's steps by vibration alone, each one deliberate, closer than it sounded. A display of ornaments beside her trembled, then began to topple. Hardy lunged aside as the entire rack crashed to the floor, glass shattering like a warning shot. She raised her weapon, breathing hard. The cheer floor went still again. But Hardy knew it had flushed her out on purpose. And now, it knew exactly where she was. The third floor felt colder the moment Hardy stepped onto it, like the building itself resented anyone crossing this threshold. The air was different here. Heavy, dusty, still. Rows of towering cardboard stacks loomed overhead, taped shut and labeled in fading marker. Seasonal, discontinued, returned items. Hardy steadied her breathing, her flashlight grazing across boxes taller than she was. Shadows stacked upon shadows. Narrow paths wound between them like cramped alleyways. It was a maze. And something was inside with her. Her radio crackled weakly. Hardy, status? Steel, distant, distorted. She whispered back. Third floor, movement below you, don't engage. Static swallowed the rest. Hardy adjusted the grip on her weapon and moved forward, eyes scanning. The floorboards creaked beneath her, old wood groaning under weight far heavier than her boots. Then she heard it. Not footsteps. Something dragging. A long, slow scrape of dense fabric and fur brushing the ground. Heavy, measured. Too smooth to be human. Hardy's pulse quickened. She pressed her back to a towering column of boxes. The cardboard trembled against her spine, faintly, like something enormous brushed the other side. She held her breath. A shadow passed through the narrow corridor between aisles, not a human outline. It had the suggestion of arms, but too long, legs, but bent, wrong. Shoulders hunched as if carrying weight under the fur. A head, rounded, bear-like, but turning with slow, unnatural precision. Hardy stayed perfectly still. The shape paused halfway down the row, turning its head toward the boxes she hid behind. Not with curiosity, not with confusion. With intention. Hardy tightened her grip on her gun. The creature inhaled, a deep, slow draw of air, as if scenting her through layers of dust and cardboard. Hardy exhaled silently through her teeth. Then a sound cut the stillness. A tiny music box tune. Sweet, tinny, out of place. Hardy's stomach dropped. The sound came from a box beside her, a sealed crate labeled damaged merch. The tune wound slower, slower. then halted on a dissonant note like a nursery rhyme left to rot. Hardy reached for the lid. Before she touched it, the box beside it violently shook, something inside hammering against cardboard, thudding loud enough to echo through the storage floor. The bear reacted instantly. It whipped its head toward the sound, posture snapping into focus. Predator mode. Hardy didn't waste the second it gave her. She sprinted into another aisle, weaving between stacks, her flashlight beam bouncing wildly off plastic wrapping and toppled crates. Behind her, the creature moved. Not running, not lunging, just closing the distance with terrifying efficiency. Its steps, almost soundless, but its presence unmistakable, felt more than heard. Hardy pushed through a tight gap between boxes, chest brushing cardboard, breath shallow. She slid between two towering pallets and crouched low, listening. The creature stopped, right outside the gap. Hardy covered her mouth with her sleeve, controlling her breathing. Silence. Then, a massive hand pressed against the boxes, indenting cardboard inward as claws scraped deep lines through the tape. Hardy's skin prickled. Knew she was close. It was testing the barrier. One more press, and it would break straight through. Hardy tensed, preparing to move. A distant crash erupted from below. Steel shouting, something metal slamming. The bear lifted its head sharply. It turned and descended the stairs without a sound. Hardy stayed frozen for several seconds after it vanished, heart hammering unevenly. Then she rose, breath trembling. The creature wasn't hunting randomly. It was choosing between them. Steele slammed the break room door shut behind him and locked it, chest rising and falling in controlled breaths. He'd followed the jingle bells to the back hallway, right into a shelf collapsing in his path. Not gravity, not accident. Something had pushed it. He checked his gun, steadied his nerves, and unlatched the side exit that led to the basement stairwell. Pitch black. But he didn't have a choice. He descended. The basement was colder than the floors above, a damp chill that clung to his clothes and seeped into his bones. His flashlight skimmed over old breaker boxes, rusted water heaters, and stacks of unopened crates. Then it found something else. Claw marks. Deep curved gouges carved into the metal housing of the building's electrical panel. Shredded wiring dangled like torn veins. Steele crouched, inspecting them. Big animal, he whispered. Bear, maybe. But bears didn't walk on two legs. Bears didn't arrange bodies. Bears didn't turn off cameras. Before he could finish the thought, footsteps sounded behind him on the stairs. Steele rose instantly, gun drawn. Hardy appeared in the beam of his light, hair dusted with cardboard fibers, breath visible in the frigid air. "Thank God," she whispered. "It's hunting us." Steele frowned. "Hunting? Hardy? Come on." "Don't," she said sharply. Her eyes were wide but steady. "You didn't see it." Steele said nothing. Hardy stepped beside him, nodding toward the panels. "It disabled everything. Cameras, lights, exits." Steele's skepticism cracked for half a second. Then Hardy pointed her flashlight deeper into the basement. At first, Steele thought the mound ahead was discarded merchandise, piles of plush toys, shredded boxes, and scrap fabric. Then he saw blood. Dark streaks smeared along the concrete floor, drag marks, footprints, and tucked between the piles. A human shoe, a sleeve, a hand. Steel swallowed. This is where it dragged them. No, Hardy whispered. Her light drifted further. This wasn't just a dumping ground. It was arranged. A circle of plush animals twisted into disturbing positions. Long-limbed monkeys and oversized bears placed like silent sentinels. In the center, a nest-like pit of torn stuffing and ripped clothing. Hardy's voice softened to a tremble. It wasn't killing them for fun. Steel stiffened. Hardy, it was building something. The air shifted. A low creaking came from the shadows behind them, the kind of sound fabric makes when stretched over massive joints. Hardy froze. Steel lifted his gun slowly. From the darkness, a silhouette emerged, too tall to fit the doorway without hunching, its arms brushing both walls as it stepped through. The fur of its suit hung in ragged patches, soaked in old blood, its head tilted to one side, glowing eyes fixing on them with mechanical stillness. Then widening just slightly, like it recognized them. Hardy whispered, "Steel, don't move." The bear took another step. Silent, deliberate, claiming its den. The bear didn't lunge. That somehow made it worse. It just stood in the basement doorway, blocking the only exit, breathing slow and even, a massive silhouette framed in the flickering emergency lights. Its glowing eyes didn't blink, didn't waver. Hardy and Steel held their ground, guns raised but useless against something that didn't move like any living thing should. The bear inhaled deeply through its stitched muzzle. Hardy felt the pressure of that breath on her skin. "Steel," she whispered, "on my mark." Left. Steel didn't argue this time. The creature took a step forward, carpeted paws pressed into the concrete without sound, but the weight vibrated up Hardy's legs. Hardy squeezed Steel's arm. "Mark, now!" They split in opposite directions across the basement. The bear reacted instantly, too fast, its head jerking between them, choosing. It chose Hardy. She sprinted between supply racks as the creature barreled after her, its massive frame brushing shelves aside like cardboard. Hardy ducked as boxes exploded overhead, paper snowing down around her. "Hardy, move!" Steel yelled from across the floor. She slid under a fallen shelf, chest scraping concrete. Behind her, the bear hit the metal frame hard enough to bend it inward like tin foil. Hardy burst into the adjacent aisle and skidded to a stop. The nest. The circle of plush toys stared at her from hollow, stitched smiles. In the center, something new sat atop the pile of stuffing and torn clothes. A child's doll, face painted crudely with red, arms stretched open. A replacement. Her blood ran cold. Steel appeared at the far end of the aisle, breath ragged. "Hardy, move." Too late. The bear rose behind her, filling the narrow space with its shadow, its head lowered toward her, breath damp and sour through seams that should not allow air. Hardy raised her gun. A fire extinguisher slammed into the bear's skull. Steel stood behind it, face set, hands shaking from the impact. "Run!" The blow barely staggered it, but it turned just enough. Hardy darted past as Steel hurled the extinguisher again, buying seconds they didn't have. They sprinted through the basement stairwell, The creature followed, its movements impossibly fast for its size, claws scraping walls, ripping garlands loose as it climbed. They burst onto the first floor, racing past toppled displays and shattered ornaments. The front doors loomed ahead, double glass panels framed in blinking Christmas lights. Locked. Hardy rammed her shoulder against them. Nothing. Steel fired at the latch. The glass cracked but didn't break. The bear's shadow stretched across the floor behind them. Hardy steadied her breathing. "Together," she whispered. Steel nodded. They kicked. The glass spider-webbed. They kicked again. It snapped outward. Cold night air rushed in as they tumbled onto the snowy sidewalk. The bear stopped at the threshold. It didn't step outside, didn't pursue. It just stood there behind the broken glass, glowing eyes staring at them through the fracture lines. Then, slowly, it raised one paw, not threatening, not frantic. A small childlike wave. Long claws etched thin red trails down the cracked door as it lowered its arm. The store's interior lights flickered once more, then went dark. Hardy stared back, breath shaking. That wasn't human. Steele straightened his coat, voice steady but thin. We were dealing with a deranged individual, clever, strong, wearing a suit. Hardy turned to him. "Steele, you saw it?" Steele met her eyes and chose the safer lie. "No, I saw panic, darkness, distorted movement. We fill in gaps. It's what the mind does." Hardy swallowed. Behind the glass, the bear didn't blink. Steele exhaled. "Case stays classified. We file it under an unidentified assailant, nothing more." Hardy didn't argue. But as they walked toward the car, she glanced back one last time. The bear hadn't moved. But one ornament inside the store, a tiny music box ballerina, began to spin slowly on its pedestal. No wind, no music, just motion. Hardy whispered to herself, "Tell me again how that's human." Steele didn't answer. The case was closed. But the toy store and the thing claiming it remained very much alive.